And welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting.
Hey, how are you?
Today is November 7th, and it is 7 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Franz, will you lead us, please?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for a moment of silence.
Thank you. I'd like to dedicate this moment of silence to our veterans, given that Veterans Day is coming up this week. And I'm just eternally grateful for anyone that's willing to write a blank check payable up to their life to this nation. So I want to say thank you to all those veterans who are currently serving, who have served, and who will. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're opening with public comment. I've got a couple of items here for the council. Chief Bernard, floor is yours.
Mr. Chair, members of the Town Council, thank you for the opportunity this evening to introduce some fine members of the Londonderry Police Department. We spoke on Saturday, and I was talking with you folks about how the men that we have recruited from other agencies. I want to just highlight one thing right here. These 4 men came to us from other agencies. And today, I'm very proud to introduce to you and explain the promotions that they have gratefully and humbly deserved. On my left right here is Lieutenant Garrett Malloy. Garrett has been with Londonderry PD since 2006. Lieutenant Lee has been serving Londonderry Police Department since November of 2006. Sergeant Andy Phillips since 2017. And Ryan McLean has been serving here at Londonderry Police Department since July of 2019. What we said on Saturday, this isn't by accident that these men came to work here. And these guys right here will tell you every single thing there is to know about the PD that you don't. They came to work here because we were like that moth to a flame. They heard about us, they saw what we did, they knew the support that we have from our community, our town council. They know the support that they get from the command staff and the men and women of that agency. This is only 5 gentlemen, and obviously Captain Breen was recently promoted too. So we have phenomenal men and women for your police department. I just wanted to take a minute and introduce the most recent promotions.
Congratulations, gentlemen.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Good job. Good job. Aww.
I also have a proclamation tonight. Normally, I would ask the only small business owner up here to read it, but I think her voice is a little on the mend still.
Still on the men.
Still on the mend, so I will go ahead and read it. This is a Town of Londonderry proclamation in honor of Small Business Saturday. Whereas Londonderry, New Hampshire celebrates our local small businesses and contributions they make to our local economy and community. Whereas according to the United States Small Business Administration, there are 32.5 million small businesses in the United States. Small businesses represent 99.7% of the firms with paid employees. Small businesses are responsible for 62% of the net new jobs created since 1995. And small businesses employ 48.8% of the employees in the private sector of the United States. Whereas 79% of the consumers understand the importance of supporting the small business in their community. And Small Business Saturday and Londonderry is made up of numerous small businesses, small family-owned, run businesses. Whereas 58% of the shoppers report that they will shop online and with a small business, and 54% say they have dined out or ordered takeout from a small restaurant, bar, or cafe on Small Business Saturday in 2021. Whereas Londonderry supports our local businesses that create jobs, boost our local economy, and preserve our communities. And whereas advocacy groups, as well as public and private organizations across the country, have endorsed the Saturday after Thanksgiving as Small Business Saturday. Now therefore, the Londonderry Council hereby proclaims November 26, 2022 as Small Business Saturday and urges our residents of our community and communities across the country to support small businesses and the merchants in Small Business Saturday and throughout the year. Signed the 7th day of November 2022 at the town of Londonderry, New Hampshire, witnessed with the seal and the signature of the town of Londonderry and its town council. So ladies and gentlemen, we have 42 square miles. There's not a lot of reasons you need to leave town. So do your business here locally. Thank you to the small businesses. We are in public comment, ladies and gentlemen. First item for public comment will come from me, sir. You can come on right up. Give me just 1 second. Tomorrow is November 8th. The polls open at 6 a.m. They close at 8 p.m. We urge you to come out and vote. Feel free, sir. Name and address.
Sure. Good evening. My name's John Grennan. I live at 14 Jewel Court in town. I was coming here for a purpose that's changed a little bit. I had talked to some folks, and I was going to come this evening, and I was going to ask about what the process was for a warrant article and how one goes about getting a warrant article in front of the voters, I suppose, in the spring. And the warrant article that I was coming for was to increase the Londonderry Police Department's presence at the schools through the School Resource Officer Program. I think the police department does a job second to none in the state. What they do in our schools makes parents more comfortable dropping our kids off, immensely more comfortable. And there was actually a school resource officer that was away on had a nice family moment, I guess. There was a child born, and one of my kids came home and told me that they missed him. And I thought to myself, I don't know why we don't have school resource officers in each of our buildings. And with the threat matrix where it is right now, it really is a proven commodity to have police officers in the school. And then when I see police officers that have done all of the training that they've done, and the school department, who has really stepped up and increased security and their security mindset in the schools, I wondered how we go about getting the police department appropriate funding, or the school department, I suppose. But I'm coming to the town side because I think that the police department resides here, and this is where it should be. I'm not so sure the police department is allowed to increase staffing at the schools and make sure they can backfill when somebody's not there. And frankly, as a parent here, I feel immensely safer when my children are in a building and there's a Londonderry cop there. And when they're not, it gives me pause for concern. And we ended the school year last year with the situation in Uvalde, Texas, and there will continue to be areas of concern that I think need to be addressed by having a police officer in the school, a trained professional police officer in a community that we all moved to. I moved here 15 years ago for 3 reasons. There was good governance in this community, there was phenomenal public safety, and there was phenomenal education. And if we're cutting corners on public safety, I think that that's something that should be addressed. And the men and women of the police department are not cutting those corners, and the men and women of the school department are not cutting them, but it's something that needs to be addressed. So I was coming to ask what the process was for that. However, the second part of my comment is that the budget committee, or the budget presentation was done over the weekend. I watched it, and I'll be honest with you, I was horrified. As a resident of the town, I was horrified. This group that I'm looking at here has been just 100% behind public safety in this community and has never wavered from it. And then I heard we're going to defund the police. I don't want to be inflammatory with that statement, but if we are removing funding from a position, that would entitle me to say defunding. And with the world we live in, we're going to drop police staffing. And as a resident, I wanted to come before this board, and I know there can't be a question and answer session, but that's absolutely crazy.
30 seconds.
And I don't know why we would do that. The fire department has gone to great lengths, as you explained at that hearing, to go from 8 to 12, and we're all safer for it, and we appreciate it. The police department in this community needs to be funded fully. And if we're ordering cops to work when they don't want to work, it's not safe for them. And nobody in this town has ever put a cop in a bad spot. And that's what we're doing right now. We're forcing them to go to calls at the 16-hour mark, and that's not good. I'm not talking about the residents. We made a deal with these cops to come to our houses at 3 o'clock in the morning for an emergency, and we're reneging on that deal. And that's what's going on. So if somebody could provide me the information on a warrant article, and then maybe somebody could reconsider defunding the police department, I think that would be a wise act.
Thank you for your comments. sir.
Thank you.
So you're aware, so when public comment is closed, I will answer your question. Please proceed. No?
Good evening. I'm Martha Smith. I live at 38 Shasta Drive. And I'm here tonight to ask a question about the Energy Task Force. I understand that at the last town council meeting that Mike Speltz gave a presentation, and then everything seemed to be tabled after that presentation. And I'm wondering what the status is of the task force. I've been on it since its inception. We've done a tremendous amount of work. We're really trying to do good for the town, and I don't know where we sit right now. I had some meetings scheduled. I haven't completed scheduling those because I don't know where we are. You got a group of very active, very interested volunteers.
Okay, it's on the agenda tonight. Number 7.
I didn't see it.
So it's number 7 on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. It wasn't on the one that was online that I noticed. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. I don't know that I'll stay until the 7th thing that is on the agenda, but I would like to speak in favor of the Energy Committee that has been in the town and that worked so hard and did a fabulous presentation, and for all the people on it who actually show up to be part of it. And to change it now and to change and have different people on it, I think would hurt the group and the committee. They work well together. They've made a lot of progress, and I just don't understand why you would possibly want to start over again. And the presentation they did was phenomenal. So I'm here to just speak in favor of keeping it as it is, encouraging all the members to show up when they are on the committee, and to maintain the status quo so they can move forward.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else for public comment? All right, seeing that, public comment is now closed.
Myself, if you don't mind. I was letting all the public go first.
Well, public comment's still closed, but you can speak, sir.
Thank you very much. So as we're aware, it's tax rate setting time. I reached out to DRA, or DRA reached out to me, and we have the current preliminary tax rate. It's at this time that I want to discuss with you what you guys want to do in terms of you using fund balance to lower the tax rate. As of right now, the tax rate is at $18.48 per thousand, which is up 10 cents from the previous year. As I mentioned on Saturday, our fund balance is nowhere near as healthy as it normally would be. I actually have these for you guys.
I'll pass them out. Thank you. Jocelyn, you said 1848?
That is what it's at currently right now,
No, it's on the paper, sorry.
which is up from the 1838 in the previous year. What's important to keep in mind with that differential is last year we lowered the tax rate by about 16 cents using the amount of UFB that we did.
Remind me, we used $500,000 last year?
We used 800,000 in addition to the 200,000 from the taxpayer
We used
relief.
$1 million last year.
Correct. Right now, we have 200,000 set to lower it as ready.
Yeah. Anyone from the council, comments on using the UFB?
I think we just need to digest it a bit. I mean, we're just getting these numbers. I think it's hard to make a decision without looking. I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I'd like to digest what I was just given.
What's our deadline?
The sooner the better, the sooner we're able to actually set our tax rate and put our tax bills out there.
UFB balance is about 5 million. We have another 1.7 million for Granite Ridge, right? So we're actually, our USB used to run before the Granite Ridge settlement around 8 million a year, right?
Correct.
Yeah, this is only my opinion. My opinion is I think we need to ride one out. That's my opinion. If we don't do something tonight, then we have to wait till next week. Then it will be another week from then that we'll send out the tax bills, which means the tax bills will become due right before Christmas.
Correct.
So, since I don't want to be called Ebenezer, I mean, why don't we, can we talk about this later in the meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, why don't we talk about it later in the meeting?
Absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, public comment is closed. I'm going to, with the town manager's help, and I'm going to address the comment with regards to police defunding. No one is defunding the police. That is, that's a political word. So let's start there. The first thing is that today, okay, little history, 2009, 2010, we had 1.5 SROs. We've gone to the ballot 2 or 3 times to ask the voters to put SROs in the schools. Today, the town funds 4 SROs to the schools, and the school funds, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, 1 SRO to the schools. So we have 5 total out of 6 buildings right now. Okay, so we have 5 total out of 6 buildings right now. What I can tell you about Saturday is that, and I think I said this multiple times, and I'll let please add in from the council at any point if I'm getting this wrong. We're having a talk. We're discussing it. Having come from 100 years of relatives in the New York City Police Department, it's a discussion about whether or not what are we going to do? We're faced with 8% raise in everything, and we got to make some hard decisions. But we also have to have some hard discussions. So at the end of the workshop on Saturday, what I said is we're down, there's talk of we're down 4 on the police department side. There's talk of that we're down 5 on the fire department side. So what I put out to the budget committee at the end of it in the summary is that come back here on the 21st, tell me what you want to do. Tell me you're the elected officials here, the budget committee and the town council. This is a discussion. What do you want to do? I think it's a healthy discussion. Do I personally believe that we should, remove first responders? Not based on my record or based on the history of this town. But what I will say is that in fairness to every taxpayer, and I think all forms of government need to do this, they need to have some hard discussions. And talk about it. At least let everyone understand what they're paying for and why they're paying for it. I have never heard anybody in this community tell me to cut services. So I want to see what everybody has to say. And I think that's the right thing to do. So that's the reason for the discussion. With regards to a warrant article, there are several ways that you can do that. I'll let the 2 gentlemen, the town manager and the chief financial officer here, talk about whether how we do that, whether it be by citizens petition, by warrant article, or how we do that. But I'll let them explain that part.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I would just echo those comments as well. I think you put it exactly right. And I'm confident that if you were to go back and look at my remarks and everybody else's remarks at the budget presentation, that it was a good deal more complex than defunding anything. So, Mr. Chairman, we do get and we assist residents in submitting petitioned warrant articles every year. And in fact, to facilitate that process and make it easier, we have created this portal that lives on the Finance Department website. I'll let Justin speak a little bit more to this. But there is a deadline in January for submitting a petition warrant article. That deadline advances into December, I believe it is, if that proposes a bond. Certainly a proposal to add police staffing would not entail a bond, but you do want to be mindful of that if there are folks out there that are proposing or want to think about proposing such a warrant article. There is a budget calendar that lives on the Finance Department website, I believe, as well, Justin. I'm not sure if you have anything to add to this, but
So as for the budget calendar, I know that I updated the budget book in the budget documents. If you go to budget documents on the left. And then there it is right there, which has the budget calendar. I will update that website tomorrow to include a link directly to the budget calendar. As for the deadlines, should you require a bond, it is the Friday, January 6th. If you do not require a bond, it is the second Tuesday in January every year going forward. This year it is January 10th, I believe.
January 10th.
But just for record, for everyone out there, it is always the second Tuesday in January if you have a warrant article that you want to submit through citizens petition. If you go back to the pages with citizens petition information, there are two different types there to assist you with it. A request for funding if you are going to have funding as part of your warrant article, and one that does not have funding if you're looking for something that does not require an appropriation. One of the key things is on every single page, the warrant article has to be written the same. If it is differing on any page, that page will not count towards the 25 registered voter signatures that are required. We recommend that you give it to us. We'll review it to make sure that it is legal by the DRA standards, and we'll provide it back to you before you get the signatures. Again, the key is to get it before the signatures, because if it's altered, all those have to be reobtained.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just emphasize what Justin said, which is that we can't give legal advice to people who are seeking to submit petition warrant articles, but we do review with counsel everybody's request to make sure that it does what the petitioner thinks it's going to do, because municipal law is such that sometimes these need to be phrased in a certain way to achieve the purpose that the person is seeking. There's no requirement to confer with us or with town council, but if you don't do that, you run the risk that what you are submitting doesn't do what you think it's going to do.
Let me turn, go ahead.
They have to be submitted before 5 p.m. on the second Tuesday in January, which in this case is January 10th.
Anyone else on the council on this subject? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have known of other citizens petitions that have been submitted and who has always submitted more than the 25 because those signatures gets validated with the supervisors of the checklist, make sure that they are indeed registered voters. So previous submissions have had more than 25 registered voters on them that have signed. Thank you.
I would recommend more than 25 should one of them, for whatever reason, not be considered valid.
Anyone from the council about police, fire? We've had the discussion. The only reason we're having the discussion is because our department heads have told us they can't find people who we want to, hire. And we've been doing this for over a year looking for people. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. And I would also point out that I certainly understand Mr. Grennan's feelings in this regard. We do also hear from other folks in the community who hold the opposite view, which is that the budget should not, as a regular practice, contain these unfilled positions. And so, as you point out, I think as a sort of vehicle for public discussion and thrashing out of these points, that's why having this debate and this discussion in a respectful way, I think, is important. Because for everyone who feels that we shouldn't reduce funding ever for the police department, even though we do have these unfilled positions and we've had them for 10 years, there are other folks who feel like that we could be going the other direction.
Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I think you said it actually probably more eloquently than I would say it, but I didn't recall that was ever a discussion about taking police officers off the road.
Correct.
I always thought it was right-fitting the budget, because if it was reducing the police department, that wouldn't be getting my vote.
And it wouldn't be getting mine either.
Right, but it is saying that, look, at this point, all of the taxpayers are gonna pay more taxes if we just leave that number in there and just continue to fund something that's not been filled for over 10 years.
Correct.
So what we're trying to do is move that to places that currently are underfunded so that we don't have to increase the tax rate.
That's
So
exactly right.
that's just layman's terms. And if they came back, and I think one of the chiefs said, it takes quite a bit of time to get a police officer on the force. So next year, if they say they have 3 or 4 coming on, we just change the budget to put the 3 or 4 on it again. It's simple as that, because we're not gonna underfund the police department ever while I'm sitting up here. So at least that one vote that you'll get. So I want to make sure that I'm clear about that as well. Is that what your impression was?
100% clear, Mr.
Right.
Vice Chairman. And to your point, you know, this is a community that supports its first responders consistently. And so, to your point, if we were to go in that direction and suddenly there were a need, an influx of candidates and a need for to increase the staffing request, I don't see the community saying no to that.
I don't either.
This is something that frankly, I think would carry overwhelmingly if that condition.
Just a follow-up comment?
Has in the past.
Just a follow-up comment to that? Is there a way that we could, and just think and have everybody think about that, if we kept that number the same, not fund it, so that it doesn't, like it's a takeaway at all, not fund it and move those dollars somewhere else? So in other words, there's still an expectation that that number is gonna be filled, right? But that this year, we're moving those budgetary dollars in a different place. So this way, when that does happen, that slot's still there and we have to fund it.
Yes, that's definitely something that,
Just
correct.
something to think about, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
So that's, no, I'm gonna break my own rule, and I'm gonna let you comment. 1 minute though, okay? We've all gotta be at the polls at 6 AM, so.
Me too, I'll see you there. I tried to be as concise as I could in 5 minutes as to what I heard on Saturday. What I heard on Saturday was, and if people don't like the language for it, what I heard on Saturday was that there are 4 positions in the police department that are no longer gonna be positions.
Well, that's not exactly what we said. What it actually is, the positions are going to exist, we're going to move the money.
Okay.
Okay, so no one's looking to defund the police. If somebody uses that word here, we're gonna have a big problem, because that's not what we're doing. Now, we're trying to figure out, it's like, it's a difficult position to be in from the standpoint of that we have to work inside of what they call default budgeting.
Sure.
So what we're trying to figure out is how do I explain to the taxpayers that I can't hire anybody, but I gotta keep this money and I gotta continue to tax you? And frankly, we're trying to figure it out.
And that was my original question on the warrant article, because right now, if a school resource officer takes a day off, it's not, in some cases, that's not backfilled.
That is true. In some cases, I it wouldn't, because of our staffing issues.
Right, and my.
Do we want to hire the 68 sworn officers? Absolutely.
And I think we-
And if you know any people who want to come from other departments and want to come here, please invite them.
Yeah, I just had heard on Saturday that there was talk on Saturday about taking the number of police officers that are allocated in this community and reducing that number, I won't use the defund word, but reducing the number of police officers to a lower number. And that didn't make any sense to me. And then I had heard other conversations about police officers that are being ordered to work. And I thought to myself, that sounds like a staffing problem. If a person calls out sick and then there's nobody else to stay, like if somebody called out sick tonight and you had to work from 6 PM until midnight, right, that would indicate a staffing problem. And then when you add the nature of their work, I thought that's dangerous. And I think there's an identifiable academic example in other communities where that's dangerous for them.
We would love to fill the positions.
I think that's great.
Please call the other 200 agencies here in the state and give them Chief Bernard's number, because we would love to offer jobs
wanna fill
to
them.
people.
Absolutely.
We would
Just have
love to be able to have them to hire. I mean, that's the issue.
You have been
We
funding.
would
the-
love to have paramedics. We can't find any.
You've been funding those positions that haven't been filled for years, so that's all we're trying to do. It's the number we're talking about is just the funding of it, not the positions themselves, and I just got clarification that that's the road we're on, so.
Which is great.
Yep.
Then I would, I don't know, then I would implore, there's gotta be another solution here.
And-
If
and
people can't
honestly-
go home from work.
That's why I put it back out to the 10 people who were elected. Bring me some answers. We don't have all the answers. Everybody start thinking about what are we gonna do?
Just out of curiosity, if the airport has a couple of cops that are on vacation, does the airport get backfilled?
I don't know how the operations of the airport work 100%. I'd have to defer to the chief. And in fairness to him, I don't want to have that conversation here.
Yep.
But I would have to defer to him.
All right,
And Mr. Chairman, if I can just address Mr. Grennan very briefly.
Okay.
with your permission.
And may I be rebut if possible, Mr. Chairman?
No, I just want to acknowledge, there is a staffing problem right
Yes.
now. But it's important to note that we're not down 4, we're down 10 or 11 or 12 in this past year. That's a problem.
And we're funding 12 hires for them.
Well, we've got 6 right now that have made it through background.
And if we find another 6 tomorrow, we're going to hire them, and they're going to get 12 more cops.
Look, please, if you have the numbers of all the other police departments,
That would be a
please-
small miracle.
Please call them. I think the chief. Look at him. He's back there smiling.
I'm sure he is.
And
If we could get candidates, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
And listen, can we get 12 warm bodies to sign up at Londonderry Police Department and slot them in? Sure, I'm sure we could. But I hope what you heard on Saturday as well is we don't want to do that. We don't. We have a special culture here that we don't want to destroy, and it's more important to, I think, frankly, to leave positions unfilled than it is to hire problem employees.
Oh, most definitely. Absolutely. 100%.
And the fire chief sitting right behind you, he's looking for 5.
give
So
him
if you know anybody on that
Yeah,
end,
I hear you. Okay. I thank you for your time and the further consideration.
Thank you for your work.
I appreciate it. Thank you for your concern.
Thank you.
And actually, this is the conversation we wanted to generate. So thank you.
I'll come back. It'll be great.
Thank you.
There'll be public hearings on the budget. You're welcome. Okay, all right, next item. New business, Resolution 2022-19, acceptance of unanticipated revenue for Londonderry Concerts on the Common. Justin,
Yes. So the Londonderry Concert on the Common has applied for the grant that they've received the past 2 years, and they have been awarded it. I believe it is 5,100.
yes.
It helps them with their expenses and being able to bring in some of the talent that they bring in on those Concerts on the Common Mondays. And they work very hard to apply for this grant and make sure that everything is in line.
Any questions from the council? Accept the motion to approve.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Next item, Order 2022-17. This is a distribution from the Fire Capital Reserve Funds. My understanding that this is for turnout gear for the amount of $36,045. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, thank you. As I mentioned on Saturday, we were planning to just discuss the need for equipment for PPE or personal protective equipment. Our newly promoted Battalion Chief Hollowell will give you a brief overview of that process and what we're asking for.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, thank you. So as we discussed on Saturday, the cost of turnout gear has significantly increased over the last few years. The safety line that is in our operating budget initially, when it began, it was covering 10 sets of turnout gear every year at the cost of approximately $2,000. That allowed us the ability to provide 2 sets of structural firefighting gear for every firefighter on the department, which gives them the ability to launder a set of gear while they still have a set of gear in service. This most recent year, from the vendor that we normally use, which is Bergeron Protective Clothing, which represents Globe Gear Manufacturing. The cost for a set of gear now is $5,434.07. So if you're doing the math at home, the number doesn't work anymore, so we have to use the capital equipment fund. Now, that is not done lightly, and as an administration, we've taken steps to ensure that we're using the taxpayer dollar as effectively as we can. We rotate gear from that's getting close to its expiration because the NFPA requires that we get rid of turnout gear after 10 years due to its breakdown from ultraviolet light, from fires, from washing. So the actual heat protection gets degraded over time. So 10 years is what the NFPA says we can keep it in service for. What we're trying to do is we rotate gear down to new recruit firefighters who are going to be crawling around on the ground in the burn buildings, using the gear much more heavily than a normal firefighter would be using it. So we're making sure that we get the last little bit of life out of that gear. That gives us the ability to then throw that gear away at the 10-year mark, which, you know, it's used, it's been well used, and we make sure that we get as much money out of it as we possibly can. We've also, unfortunately, met with some of the problems that everybody is seeing with the supply chain, and that is that you can't get certain things. We're looking at approximately 350 to 390 day turnaround time for our structural firefighting gear from Globe, which required us to look for alternatives. And so at the direction of the fire chief, we looked around to see what gear would meet our current specification and ensure that we're putting our firefighters in the exact same safety profile that we're in currently. And we arrived at a clothing company called Firedex. Yeah, you can just Google them online, Firedex, and they make fire gear for some pretty significantly sized fire departments. And that's what we're asking for your support for today. It gives us the ability to purchase approximately 10 sets of gear. The cost of this gear is actually a little bit more cost-effective than the Globe gear, but we don't want to jump in 100% and outfit the entire department in it. We want to see what it looks like in 4, 5, 7, and 10-year mark, because Globe is tried and trusted for us, but Firedex, we just don't have as much of experience with it. So we're moving forward with this to kind of diversify a little bit so that we're not in this supply chain issue. We ordered a couple of trial sets. They arrived in approximately 8 weeks. And the manufacturer is telling me that when we place this order, we should see this gear in approximately 12 weeks. So that's a pretty significant difference between 12 and 52 weeks. And last and final point is that this gear that we're moving forward with, I know a lot of people talk about PFOAs and carcinogens. The way they manufacture this gear is it doesn't have any of the carcinogen components that are touching our firefighters. So the inner liner and the external component of it don't touch the firefighter, or that touch the firefighter's skin, don't have any of those carcinogen components that make up that fire gear. So it's advantageous from a health and safety standpoint for our firefighters as well. Brevity was what I was told this evening, so I hope I gave a good down and dirty of our fire protection program. Be happy to answer any other questions, but that's what we're seeking your funding approval for. And of course, we certainly appreciate your support.
Questions for the fire department? Yes.
Was there any, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, exclusivity contracts with Globe?
We've, in the past, used them as a sole source.
Right.
But
We didn't have like an obligation to solely use them.
no, sir.
Okay, all right. And just to correct me if I'm wrong, so, you ordered a couple to see how they work. You'd like to order some more. Have you talked to any other departments that currently use this brand?
So there are a number of departments that are trialing them as well.
Okay.
A small fire department just over the border called Nashua, they're trialing some sets. And they've got a lot of larger accounts down in Massachusetts. They're working their way towards New Hampshire. And in my personal opinion, sometimes the smaller companies that are more interested in gaining your business are more likely to provide you with that friendly customer service. And that has been my experience with them up until this point.
No, anything to keep our people that keep us safe, anything for them, so thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to continue to order from Globe exclusively, but unfortunately, I don't know who's going to be here in a year and a half.
Yeah.
So I got to buy gear for people who are here right now.
Thanks.
And to add just quickly, Globe used to be a locally owned, locally operated company. And a number of years ago, they were bought up by Carnes, a very large company in the fire business. And as a result of that, changes have been made. We used to be able to make a phone call to our vendor, and things could happen quickly under the family ownership. And with the corporate change, that hasn't happened. So our customer service also has decreased over the years.
Yep.
No fault of our vendor, but it's truly because of the size of Globe and the size of Carnes itself.
And the materials are changed just a little bit. So that's, Globe is manufacturing gear with this material, and Firedex is manufacturing with this material. Firedex just seems to have more supply of the material that they need in order to make the firefighter suits. And I also just wanted to talk about one other thing, which is the Sims Drive fire that we had. We lost a number of sets of firefighting gear that were exposed to petroleum products, and petroleum products break down the integrity of the firefighting gear. And the chief, as well as myself and the deputy, worked with the insurance company. We worked with all of our mutual aid partners. We paid for a company to come in to decontaminate all of our gear, remove as much of the oils as they could from all of our gear and all of the mutual aid partners. Then they gave us a full inspection that met the NFPA requirement. And then they told us what sets of gear could go back in service and what sets of gear were not allowed to go back in service. We then took those sets of gear that were not allowed to go back in service, and we went to Globe and we said, hey, this is an emergency. This gear has been rendered useless, and we need gear to be manufactured. They were able to get that gear on a rush order for us within about 6 weeks or so. But the other great thing for our taxpayers is that that didn't cost the town anything, because we were able to pursue financial reimbursement from the insurance company of the property owner for that fire. So all of that gear got replaced at no cost to the taxpayer.
Anything else, council? Accept the motion to approve.
So moved, Chairman.
Second.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It was affirmative. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much for your support.
And I'm going to take orders 2022, 18, 19, 20, and 21 all at the same time. So if you want to run through them all, Dave, and then we're going to vote.
Okay.
All right, good evening, Mr. Town Manager, Mr. Chair, members of the board. As you just said, we have four allocations I'm looking to have funded tonight from the Expendable Maintenance Trust Fund. The first is, a few of these you've been briefed on already in previous meetings. 2022-18 is for the Town Hall new BMS system that we installed. If you recall, on June 6th of 2022, we talked about an issue that was going on with the library, with their HVAC system, and the brains, if you will, the building management system was antiquated and outdated. And I had already been previously looking at installing a system here in Town Hall because of the same situation we had here, but theirs had unfortunately crashed. And so together we partnered and then was able to keep the costs down for both buildings. And that was installed. It is running very efficiently. We're still learning the crux of all of it, but as far as we can tell, it's doing exactly what we want it to do. In fact, we had an alarm come in here about 3 weeks ago that had we not had this system in place, then that Friday morning would have started off on a pretty rough start, because the one of the fan motors upstairs had seized up and actually was smoking a little bit. So we got that alarm, we got here, we got the unit shut down. It's actually shut down via the system before I arrived. And so we were able to set up technicians to come in the next morning and everything else. So the system has already proven itself worthy of what it is that we're trying to capture when things like that go wrong. So so the allocation for this installment that we did is to E&E Systems of New Hampshire for $16,745.
19.
19 is the fire alarm panel at the police department. As you recall, on October 3rd, we had that discussion about some issues that we've been experiencing with the fire alarm system and the fact that it was a proprietary system at the police department. And so therefore, myself and members of the police department, and with the help of the finance director, Justin Campo, we put out an RFP to replace the system as was the desired by the council. On October 25th, we had that public opening. We had 2 vendors send in proposals. We selected the low bid, and there was a delta of about 20 plus $1,000 to the next vendor. So we did quite well. The vendor that has been selected has done work for the town previously. And in fact, they even changed out the system here in Town Hall some years ago. So the order for that one to get this work going is $50,159.03 via, again, the procurement policy through the finance department.
20.
20 is, if you recall, last winter, and it worked out quite well, rather than coming before the board each and every time that I have a plow bill for every event, what we did was, we did an allocation based on half of what the previous year's spent would be, rolling in last year's numbers with the previous 4 years, the 50% average of what we spend on winter maintenance for buildings such as the Town Hall, Londonderry Fire Department, Police Department, Library, the Senior Center, and Access Centers. This year, I'm looking for a winter maintenance first allocation. I know it's 72 degrees outside, so it's the last thing we're thinking about, but you know New England, it'll be here before we know it. So I'd like to just go ahead and get this set up so that when it does arrive, we have the money already set in place. And that allocation request is for $17,500.
Okay. 21.
Right, lastly, this is the one that will take just a little bit to explain. In mid-June, we started experiencing an issue with the generator at the police department. Ironically enough, the fire department was contacted and brought over because we were believing that the alarm that was going on, or the staff at the time believing that the beeping that was going on was coming from the previous experiences we were having with the fire alarm system. But as it was found out, it was actually something going on with the generator. The generator itself is fine. It does what it's supposed to do. It transfers energy to the building when it comes off the grid power. The tests are running fine, and the motor and all that stuff is fine. The annunciator panels, and this is what I brought in tonight, it's a little prop for you, but essentially this is what is inside the building. This is inside, lets you know if something's going wrong with the generator outside. I don't like to rush to things and just hurry up and start getting vendors to start replacing things. These are costly repairs. So their PM company believed that the issue lied with the annunciator panel, okay? They gave us a price, but they were concerned that it could be something larger than that, but they weren't sure what was going on with the controller. The controller is made by CAT. It's CAT brand. It's their software. It's their component, if you will, that tells the building and everybody that's utilizing that generator what's going on with it. Whether if there's a high coolant alarm, low pressure, whatever's going on with the generator. So we brought in another company to look at it. That's not the company that does the preventative maintenance on it, to take a look at it. They too said, yup, your annunciator's gone, but it really does look like there's something wrong with the controller. So if the controller gets replaced, that's fine, but these don't work with that version. Like you're similar to with your phones, you know, you had 4.0 and you had 5.0, and now we're on, what, 14, whatever, 0.0. Same thing with this. When this is a 2003 generator, when this type of equipment went in, coupled with the generator, as CAT explained it, because we brought them out to say, what's wrong with your controller? Is that the issue? They plugged into their software and said, yep, this is actually the problem, is the controller. They can replace the controller, but they don't have these anymore because this is 2003, we're in 2022. So they both need to be changed out in order to get the system to work. So that's where we're at. CAT confirmed it. We had 2 other vendors look at it. I know the generators are a sensitive issue. I learned that very early on in my days here, but that's why I'm going through the great lengths to explain what's wrong with it. The 2 previous companies, one vendor gave us a price of $9,300 to change out just this. The other company gave us a price of $9,600 to change this out. We asked the $9,300 company to give us a price to change out the controller and this. They said it's actually going to be a problem because CAT still has to do the software on it and whatnot and the coding, so they would end up using them anyway. So we'd be better off to seek them. So they really didn't want to do the job. We called the other vendor to see if they'd give us a price, and it's actually kind of tough to get them. They're very, very busy, and I guess they just don't want to do the work. So what I proposed here is to hire, again, this has been going on since June, so I would like to get this rectified. I think we've been, analyzing it to death because I know the consensus in the community about generators and the sensitivity of it. So And the facilities manager over at the PD is going out there every day, just making sure that there's nothing wrong, because this type of information is not being communicated into dispatch anymore. So, so the allocation sought for that is $15,182. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on all four of the proposed.
So I'll take questions on 18, 19, and 20 first. Are there any on that? Now questions on 21. Any questions? All right, I'll accept a motion to approve 18, 19, 20, and 21.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Chair votes affirmative. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you. Next item, item number 7, Energy Task Force Workshop Discussion. As previously discussed in the last town council meeting, task force are designed for a certain period of time with certain goals, with a start date and an end date. So the task force came in and gave us a report. We had some time to digest it. What we had chatted about is that we would have a discussion tonight. One of the things that has come about through various pieces is that perhaps the Energy Task Force is too narrowly focused, and that it really should be something more like a Utilities Commission, and really should be something more like a permanent type of committee in which all utilities would fall under it, such as all of the water discussions we're having, all of the cable, electricity, natural gas. I don't know if home heating oil or propane would come into it, I just don't know. But more of a discussion of that, this really needs to be something that needs to be not as narrowly focused, but more broadly focused as we continue to go forward. So I think that's the discussion that's on the table for tonight, if everyone agrees we should have that discussion. It's out to all of you.
Well, I'm a little biased on this one because it was something that I came up with, and I think it should be permanent. I think that the people that were on it should continue and maybe get a little bit of help from staff, but not much. I think that it's something that I think has very good momentum at the moment, and it would really be sad to see that just fall to the wayside by letting it wait longer and longer and longer to enact. So for me, and as one person, I believe that the task force should stay in place and just be renamed and have a new mission. So that's my 2 cents on it.
So are you saying go more broadly on the Utilities Commission?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry.
No problem.
I thought you were talking to me.
No, I was. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
Yeah, it should, and I thought that from the get-go.
Okay.
And that's why we talked about electric cars. That's why we looked at oil. That's why we looked at all the other things that we looked at, because they're all connected. And as we start updating our buildings and stuff, we had Dave Wally came in and talked to us and gave a great presentation. And everything is connected, and it has to be school, town, library, all in on doing this. And there is huge savings over a period of time that can be found there. And I think we're a little bit behind the 8 ball when you look at what other towns in the state of New Hampshire are doing with this and the money that they're saving at this point in time. I mean, granted, it's not going to be like you do it and tomorrow you make all this money, but it definitely is there. And it's a very positive motion. So yes, I do agree that it's all inclusive. And it even includes having one master panel that controls everything. And it would require a lot of teamwork on this project.
So Deb, for clarity, you want to go from a task force to a committee to broaden the scope?
Yes, sir.
For clarity?
Yes,
All right, okay.
yes.
But you also want the members of the task force?
I would like
move
to see
over
that.
To the committee?
I would like to see that.
How many people are on the current task force?
9.
9?
Well, we can get into the details of whether what the committee will look like.
Yeah.
We just need to decide.
I just think that like solid waste should be involved and planning, like just recently a planning board Jim, there was a discussion about a new development coming in, and they wanted to connect to Mammoth Road. And I had suggested, you know, depending on when you're building, you should anticipate wider pipes, and instead of putting in 8, look at the 16 to 20 inch. And so they don't have to dig it up and redo it. I was actually trying to help that developer. But I think that they need to know where we're going and just, you know, to help work. Also, putting in ordinances for planning that has to do with solar panels. Do you want people to take their whole front yard and cover them with, so, you know, there has to be some rules and things put, so therefore a lot of the departments have to be involved in some of the stuff, but not all of it. Most of it's the team going out, getting information, putting it together in a digestible form for the town.
Based on what Deb's talking about, can we legally or
Yeah, what would be the
structurally
vehicle?
be able to move those committee members over to, or the task force members over to a committee? Or do we have to regurgitate everything?
Well, it's a process, right?
Yeah, yes, I think it's, I'd want to look at, it's actually a good question. Because how this is controlled, the town charter has a provision for certain committees.
Right.
And then under the town code, we have the ability to create other committees. And I would just want to look at the town code to see exactly what the vehicle would be to be able to do that. And whether you do have to sort of wind one down and then wind another up. But I think there's a way to bridge that gap and to figure that out. But I just want a little bit more time to look at that.
Yeah, when you form the committee, so the task force technically is closed. I mean, if you look at the way we wrote the resolution and everything, technically it's closed. If you look at what we have to decide as a group is what is the structure of the committee? You know, what does it look like? And it's not that a member of the town council has to be on it. There'd be another committee that they have to be a liaison to. And we've got to decide as a group, what does that look like? Then how does that fit into our rules and regulations? And then technically, we have to advertise it. Now, that doesn't mean that the town council can't appoint the same people who are on it.
Right.
It's just that you have to go through the process and through the steps.
That's exact, it does need to be advertised. You're exactly right.
So, but it doesn't mean that you don't capitalize. I mean, you're evaluating the people that you want to have on it. Do you want to have people who don't know anything, or do you want to have people who already have experience? It's the same way we look at every other board. I mean, and you also want to go through the whole process of knowing that they're going to be appointed for what period of time? Is that going to be a 3-year period of time, or are we going to make it a 2-year period of time? And are we going, if we do that, are we going to, perhaps it's better that if we do 2- and 3-year periods of time, so we stagger it. All discussions we have to have and make a decision on. But it's a process, but it's a great idea. You know, it's something that's going to affect everybody going forward over the next 20 years. So it's a good time to get started. And, you know, and the task force has done yeoman's work. It's pointed us in a direction. Now we need to take a permanent direction. At least that's one opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with Counselor Paul's earlier statement in regards to having that. I am interested in, you know, what's the vehicle of putting this forward and how to do that and getting more information. So.
Yeah, I agree on the committee too, so I think it's unanimous up here. I just think that, I like the way you framed it though, Jim, and that, you know, there's gonna be some criteria that we'll wanna have certain particular membership on that, and whether that be from a school committee person or a planning board person, and if those other positions, you know, happen to check a box with some of the people that are already on the committee, that's great, but we really have to think through that process and really come up with what we see as a vision.
You know, is the number 9? Is it 7? Is it 5? Whatever it is.
So we don't know that.
And I'm not saying what it is. I'm just saying
No,
we just need to talk about it and figure it out.
And I'd welcome that conversation, because we did have 2 people from the school on the board already. And I really would, and the library reached out and said they want to be on there. And so I think that if Mike has the time, I could give you my insight and basics, and then you can tweak it and present it or whatever. Because I may or may not be here by the time you figure this out.
Happy to.
Oh, I think we're gonna try to move
I know
through
it's
it pretty
not
soon.
now.
You know, I think we'd like to have something in place by deliberative at the latest.
Certainly.
And that would be at the latest.
By all means.
Okay, I think we have a direction. All right, terrific. Deb, great job leading that. Great job getting us here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb.
Thanks.
Okay,
The tax rate thing?
yeah, we got to have a discussion about it.
Okay.
Because if we don't have a discussion about it, we're not going to send the tax bills out, and they're going to be delayed. So we're going up a dime. Oh, what do you guys want to do?
So, I just have a couple questions. More specifically for Justin, to bring 10 cents difference from last year per thousand, how much, like, is 1 cent?
So 50,000 is roughly 1 cent on the tax rate. According to DRA, in order to get us to exactly where we were last year, it would be $514,406.
So just my concern is a couple things. When you artificially stimulate or inflate the tax rate from the undesignated fund balance, and then you pull it away, it adds a complete and opposite reverberate in the other way. We also had an increase of the veterans tax credit, which greatly affected, not greatly, but it also affects the tax rate. From my understanding, based on the CIP, on the town side, we don't have a significant amount of capital projects coming up. So therefore, and I understand they look back,
You do?
however, I'm concerned, I'm just concerned, I think,
Can I chime in here?
yeah.
Had we not used that 800,000 last year, we would actually be looking at a tax rate decrease this year. I think that is your concern right there, is sooner or later, you run out of
It's gonna
being,
catch up
the
to
money
us.
to be able to put it at the tax rate.
We've been robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Right.
I think what he's saying is, it's 10 cents. At some point, you have to, square things up. I think that's what Justin's saying. Is that what you're saying?
At 10 cents, a $500,000 house, it would increase about $50-ish.
Thank you for that
And our
analogy.
USB fund is 5 million now.
Yep.
Plus the 1.7 for Granite Ridge.
That's considered
So
committed,
that,
but
we
yes.
deduct that off the 5 million?
Nope, it's
No, it's
in
plus.
addition to
No,
that.
Plus?
it's
Okay.
earmarked.
And we normally have 8 million?
I
in
just,
that
I just have a concern, especially, with
cents.
with everything else, with gas and utilities and everything else being up. My concern is, I hear,
It's
the
why I'm
logic
bringing it
makes
to you
sense.
guys.
My concern is just, it's in combination with everything else. Maybe a compromise, not a compromise, but like meeting in the middle. Maybe not the full, 500,000 to offset the 10 cents, maybe 250.
If I may, and Justin understands this way better than I do, but the fund balance, and he'll correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's important that everybody recognize what fund balance is there for.
Yeah.
He talked on Saturday about cash flow, and it's really important for that. It's also really important if revenues don't come in the way we're projecting and expenses are higher. If you get into that kind of a situation, the fund balance is there to dig you out of a hole. That hasn't happened to my knowledge, certainly in recent history. But if you don't have that fund balance there, and you've either really undershot your revenues or really overshot your expenses, or a combination of the two, you're up a creek. And so, in that connection, the only other thing I would mention is, and perhaps I'm describing this in overly simplistic terms, but if Granite Ridge had happened in one fell swoop, and we hadn't been able to structure a settlement with Granite Ridge over 4 or 5 years, that's $5 million right there, and then some. And so, are we forecasting anything like that on the horizon? Absolutely not. But let's remember as well that places like Peterborough have had $3 million stolen out of their bank account. I think we're in better shape than Peterborough, but these things do happen to municipalities, and that's why fund balance is there.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, I mean, am I reading this correctly, or the local education went up by 54 cents by the tax rate? So, it says 1848, right? And it was 1838 last year, but 54 cents of that increase is just in local education. So
So
if
if you
it
look in
didn't
the
go up that
state-
much, we'd be under, right?
The state decreased by, I believe, about 47, which is kind of the offset there, similar to how the county decreased.
Okay, I didn't see that one, okay. So I'm just trying to figure out where the big, where the jump is, so, okay. Thank
And I
you.
mean, I can't speak to the school districts fully, but I'm assuming that those two are related as to why one jumped and one decreased.
Anyone else?
Well, I'm just going to say that I feel really bad for the taxpayers of this town. We had assessments go up, it was a big hit to our taxes, and now we have the economy being what it is, and we've heard people come in here and struggle who have been here for a long time trying to stay in their house. So for me, my heart says to me, we have to do what's right, just like we have to keep the police in place and the fire in place. We have to find that balance, but keep in mind that the police and fire are paid for by these taxpayers. And when they're out of work and they're suffering, and nobody could have predicted COVID and the craziness that brought along, and we've all kind of fought through it. I just personally, I think that I understand the fund balance, and I don't want to deplete it. And I understand what Chad's saying, but this is a perfect storm, and I think that families are struggling like unbelievable. And so for me, I would like to keep it the same, and just for this year, and think about ways early on next year to do it so that we can get to where you're saying is a more balanced place to be without having to depend on it. And hopefully the economy will have ironed out by then. But it's really sad. I mean, I talk to people in the grocery stores and they're like, I can't afford to get meat because it's priced out, it's electricity, it's oil, it's gas, it's your insurance, and people's hours are being cut back, their pays are being cut back. So, I don't know, that's my own 2 cents.
I fully understand. My concern, and I believe I said this last year as well, is sooner or later, you don't
It's
have
going
it.
to
and
catch
it's
up. I
it's a giant
understand.
jump.
But could you have
That's my-
predicted what we're going through right now? I mean, there are people out there who haven't had raises in 5-10 years that are into their 401ks just to survive. They're double mortgaging their house to pay their own bills. They're really borrowing from Peter to pay everything here.
I'm not fighting. What I'm saying is my concern is that when that happens, like I said, I'm bringing this to you guys for you to make the decision as the elected officials.
And I'm going to echo what John said. We really need to look at processes that we have, the things that we're doing in the town, that supplying service, putting out X amount of dollars. Are we retrieving, something back for it? And we've got to look at that and see its
And I mean,
value.
kind of on that note, I'm sure you have all heard, I've had people call me, say that how we have all this development, how come the tax rate never goes down? How come it never goes down? How come it never goes down?
Yep.
This is an example where I'm telling you, if we didn't use 800,000 last year, it would have gone down. Taxpayers would not be able to see it's gone down. We're doing all this stuff to help and try and assist. And that's where we're at right now. And again, I'm not trying to push either way. I'm just wanting, I want
and I
this out there so
understand-
people are aware of why I'm always the Grinch saying, hold on to fund balance, hold on to it. Because of situations like this.
I
And my
totally
concern is next year, when you're looking at 800,000, 500,000, that's 2 years of expenses that we've offset that now all of a sudden you're making up in 1 year because we may not have that UFB. That's, it's up to you guys. This one, I understand completely either way.
To me, I understand what you're saying. If it wasn't the perfect storm,
Yep.
I'd be fine. But
If I may as well, Mr. Chairman, one other thing to keep in mind is, if we were to throw the 500, whatever number it is at the tax rate to get it down to where it was last year, I think that would potentially hamper our ability to use fund balance on the separate warrant articles as is customary. We would really be putting ourselves in a position where that's going to be problematic. And so if we do it here, we're probably not going to be able to do it there to the same extent. And so I offer that as a suggestion.
Question?
Yes.
I mean, we have to be prudent about our cash flow, and that's where it's coming from. Compromise. What's your opinion if we split it?
It'd do 5 cents.
Opinion. I understand what Deb's saying, I get it. I understand everyone's in tough shape, but we'll be in worse shape if something doesn't meet our expectations for
So
revenue.
5 cents is $250,000.
Yep.
It's 250, yeah. We have a piece of paper in here that tells you.
What's your opinion?
My opinion is you have an opportunity to give the taxpayers if you're going to do something, you have the opportunity to give the taxpayers a lower tax rate than they'd had last year. And I know that's not ideal to hear, but if we're going to do something that you're already hurting yourself, you might as well go all the way.
So, everybody good? Is Mike? No, I'll wait until everybody's done. Go ahead.
Did you want to go first?
Oh, you can go. That's fine.
Okay, I just, to what Mike was saying, I personally am glad that we don't have the money to put on some of the warrant articles, because that's misleading to the public. They're thinking that they aren't paying taxes on things, and instead of stopping and reading and thinking about what they're voting on, they're just going, oh, it's not gonna cost me anything, okay, when in fact it really is. And so, for me, that's more of a slippery slope than my pocketbook and staying in my house.
So I've explained to people, I understand
I know
that-
you've explained
I-
it,
nope,
but we know people don't listen either.
Yes, I've explained to people that I understand that viewpoint. The way I look at it is you're using your tax dollars so you don't have to re-raise your tax dollars. You've already paid it, so now we're using it for projects that benefit you rather than holding on to it for other purposes.
And that's debatable, but
It goes to the council for the
Yeah, I
items.
know.
But the other thing to keep in mind is right now, interest rates are about 2%. With the cash flow, you're going to get that interest revenue coming in. And that also helps offset the tax rate. Depending on how much you use, depends on how much we're going to get in interest revenue from that. So it's all intertwined.
So 10 cents is $50 for 500,000.
That's roughly what I'm getting, yes. For a $500,000 house, you're looking at about $50 on your tax bill or off of your tax bill.
Mr. Chairman.
Please proceed.
So, I made a promise a while back that I wouldn't do anything to increase the tax rate. So very easily, for me, I take a look at last year at 416, and I take a look at municipality at 425 this year, and I know that I can get at least 9 cents on that. So, to me, I don't think that to echo what was said already, I don't think that we have the ability to go up on the tax rate based off of what we're seeing. So my vote would be at least keep it at 1838, to keep the municipal tax rate to where I think it should be. Frozen from last year. That's my opinion.
Everybody all set? So, my turn. All right. We have, so last year, we gave back $800,000. This year, we're giving back $200,000 already. Over the last couple of years, we've increased the elderly tax piece. That's 100% on the town. Nothing from the schools. We've increased the veteran tax rate, the tax piece. It's nothing on the schools, 100% on the town. And I'm not beating the schools up here, okay? We're the bank. Granite Ridge is 1.7 million. We already gave back 200K. So you've given back 4 times. Now you want to give back 5 times. What our CFO has told us is This is the year to sure things up and even things out. It's 10 cents. What he said is that if you're going to go all in, we'll just do the whole 500,000 and I'll figure it out. That's basically what he said. We're very early in the budget cycle. We asked and all agreed to have a conversation on November 21st seriously about what services are important and what the 10 people who are voted by the people to talk about the budget. So what you're doing is you're going to take $500,000 away from them, those 10 people, and we're 5 of them, and say, you know what? We weren't really serious about what we said and really serious about having services discussions. So we've given back 4 times. I get it. I'm the one who beats the drum constantly on it. You know, this costs more, 8% more. Gasoline is up, it's double. Salt is double. We're at some point, you got to draw the line. Joe, with all due respect, and I know this probably may upset you, but you're saying you're going to hold the line. You already gave back. You shouldn't have given back if you were holding the line.
Well, isn't this the time that we pay the piper at the tax rate? So whatever we do from,
You don't always have to pay. Why are we paying the piper?
well, what I'm saying,
Why are we
okay,
taking
what I'm saying is,
$500,000 out of our budget?
yep.
Okay, when we get no participation from the people who are spending 70% of it. Why are we doing that?
So I guess my point is that we're in budget season right now, and there's a lot of things that we're gonna be having decisions on whether or not we wanna take on from the UFB. That's kicking the can, I get it. It's kicking the can to next June, right? So the point is, right now, today, things can happen very differently from as we're sitting here today, putting a tax rate. I'm just hopeful that things will improve. And so that's kind of why I'm saying kicking it down the can, that 10 cents. So that next year, when we're sitting up here and we're trying to hit the tax rate, we hope we're gonna be in a better situation.
Yeah, but hope's not a plan. I had somebody come in here
The
today.
plan is not to take so much UFB from our budgeting. That would be the plan.
So what do I do when that gentleman comes back with a citizen's petition for 2 more SROs for $250,000? What do I do then?
Then the town.
Because that's what's gonna happen.
But the town will be able to vote on that.
The town voted to put us up here. I mean, you know, when was the last time our tax rate only went up a dime?
I don't have those figures in front of me.
Yes, John.
Years, right? And listen, it's not that I don't get your pledge. I mean, I understand it. I
Now's
really
not the
do.
time to take it. The financial aspect out there is not good.
Well, and the financial aspect is not good. I understand that.
I mean, bonds have gone down historically, the worst they've ever done. People's 401ks, people's retirements, they're looking at it going.
Joe, I've lost 30% in my 401k. I get it.
So just people are looking at every penny that they can save, and this is the time that I think we have to,
Okay, well, if
act
the school
appropriately.
department came to me and told me that they were gonna do something too, then I'd be all in.
well, I hope this will help them. I hope this will help them.
No, we've given back 4 times. And I'm not just, I know, I know the school board member who's here is not pleased with me when I say these things and everything, but you know what? We've given back 4 times. What's gonna happen when the elderly come in here and they say to us, hey, we want to, you guys gotta help us out. Well, I had $500,000 to help you out. I don't have it now. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but it's an honest conversation if we're gonna have it.
Well, they're gonna get that tax
I
rate.
know I'm not popular for doing this.
No, they're gonna get the tax rate at 1848 versus 1838.
And, John, what you just said about the elderly coming in, the veterans coming in, that's great. We help them. That's one piece or a piece of the population. We're talking about the whole population right now. So there's a huge difference, and that's the answer to them. I'm sorry, we've helped you. Now we're helping everyone, including you, again. And I
I mean, Deb, it's not that I don't get it. It's just like the conversation we want to have on the 21st. It's
I
not
mean,
not an easy conversation.
how do we, as a council, show up at a school board meeting and convince the school that they need to tighten their purses too? Do we all just go and speak in public? I mean, can we do that? Can we encourage that?
Yes,
We took our 10
So maybe
cents.
that's what we need to do as a united board. Show up and, I mean, I don't know, that's a quorum, but
What I'm saying is that,
I don't want to do that.
As long as we stand in 5 corners, we're okay.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, go up there and Put them on the hot seat for the change.
Well, what you're saying,
It's a good point. Absolutely agree.
Mr. Chairman, what you're saying, what we're saying here is that we're looking at what it was last year for 16. We're looking at what we happen to have now is 426. And it's 9 cents difference. We're gonna take that 10 cents and we're gonna bring it down. And we're asking you to take the state and the local and do the same. Let's freeze it for the town, both forms of government. Let's freeze it for the town to what last year was, so that that impact will be, twice as good for them.
I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I do agree that the town can't take it all and that it does have to be split between the other government.
So in the school's defense, they have given $100,000 this year towards lowering the tax rate.
I'm sorry?
In the school's defense, they have given $100,000 this year towards lowering the tax rate.
And did theirs go up? Are they looking for an increase?
Yes.
By how much?
As I said, I can't talk about the,
But my point
The
is, what they've
connection
given
between that and the
what they're
state?
asking for seems to be this.
I can't talk about the connection between that and the state because the state went down by about 47, I believe, and the school went up by, I think, 50. I don't know if there's a connection. Just looking at numbers, it seems
No, I understand.
interesting.
I understand, Justin.
But yes, there have gone
Basically
up
flat.
some last year.
I just did the numbers. They're basically flat between the school and the state.
It's like 7 cents difference.
Okay, but so how much money did the elderly tax exemption cost us?
That I don't have that number in front of me. I do have the veterans credit.
Yeah, that was
That
a
was,
$250,000, right?
Yep, so about 5 cents on the tax rate.
So that was $250,000. The elderly tax piece, let's call it 150. We gave back 200 already, so we are 600 in.
So John, they're going up 7 cents if you net the two together. That's $350,000, just like we're saying 9 cents. So I'm just suggesting that if that's possible, we can communicate to them that we'll get them with the 9, you get them with the 7, and now we're even to last year. So the taxpayer doesn't get hit. Because you're right, the state did come down, so split the difference, 7 cents.
Mr. Chairman, this would be, it's probably not productive for me to sit here and speculate about how the school's side of the ledger works, but I do know that they have, pursuant to state statute, a less of an ability to carry a significant fund balance that they would be able to give back. And so,
I understand that.
so I think that may be, I don't know how much they have, I don't know how much, but I do think that you
So-
run into that.
All right, so
I
don't-
believe
I-
also
I don't
part
wanna-
of-
I don't want to beat this to death. I'll just make one final point, and then either we can decide or push it off to the 14th. All right? At one point, Granite Ridge was paying us $9 million a year. Okay? Over a 10-year period, everybody got their percentage. We're paying back $5 million.
Just
Right.
the town.
Yes.
I'm paying back $5 million. I came up with $600,000. As you have pointed out to this council on multiple occasions, it is not a bottomless pit. Right? I'll go along, but I want to have a completely clear understanding of what we're doing. I don't want us to just say, okay, fine, we'll take 10 cents off. It's not just 10 cents. It's 5 million. It's $600,000 a year in credits. It's $200,000 a year in credits. It's not just 10 cents. So if you put all those numbers together and you do it over the last few years, we've given back like 7 million. So let's just be clear about that.
And we have to find a way to swallow $1.5 million in increases to default, to your point, Mr. Chairman.
So if you want to put it off to the 14th, you wanted some time to think about it, which is where we started an hour ago. Before we, back right after public comment. I'm fine with waiting until the 14th, but I'm knowing that tax bills are going to go out late. But just so everybody understands how much money we're talking about here, we're not talking about $50. We're talking about a lot of money. And just so we go into it, eyes wide open. And like I said, I'll go along with the majority, whatever the majority wants to do. but I want to make sure that we do it eyes wide open. And I'm sorry to rain on everybody's parade, but you know, it's a lot of money.
I think we should move
Yeah,
to the
I think
next
we should
meeting.
move it.
I don't think it's gonna, I'm not gonna change my mind, so I don't know.
That's fine.
I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, I get
what
it.
she's
Well,
gonna
then
say,
make a
so.
motion,
I make a motion that we move to the next meeting.
or make a motion to approve it. I mean,
I just put a motion on the floor.
you need a second.
Second.
So it's motion and a second to table to November 14th? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Mhm.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Do you guys not want to table?
Nope.
I won't table. I
Well,
will
we're,
vote.
we're the minority, so it doesn't matter.
I have to break the tough.
Yeah, he's
Not
gotta break it
If
up.
you want, I'll
That's not
stay here and
accurate.
keep talking about it.
That's not
I
accurate.
mean, I don't know
That's
what
not-
we could add to it that's gonna change anything.
I think it would give us an opportunity to hear from other people, our constituents, because that's important
heard
to
from
me.
Well, I've heard from my constituents, I can tell you that I
That's all I
get,
hear.
Okay, I haven't.
That's all I hear about.
that's, I,
But we have a number that the constituents know now.
Well, out of respect for you, I'll vote with you guys to put it off, out of respect.
You can make a motion and take it the other way. I might vote for it.
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm just telling you, I'm not gonna change my mind. I've already.
That's fair.
I just,
I
for me, I don't
respect-
see
I
any
respect
reason
that.
to
That's
to
your
delay
decision,
it.
but
if
I
you
would
guys
like to hear-
But if you guys would like that, out of respect for you, I'll table it as well.
I want to ask you a question. When do we receive this? Tonight?
Yeah,
That's a big decision to make. I'd like a little bit more time
thank you.
to listen to my neighbors and listen to other people. Now that we have this in front of us and not voted tonight, let's wait till
I
the
get
next
it,
meeting.
it's going up, but I get it.
Okay.
And I don't think it's fair to say that there's a minority or whatever,
Yeah, that's,
with all respect.
I thought he voted yes, so,
I didn't vote.
no,
I'm sorry. I thought he voted yes.
I'm voting
No.
to
Table,
to table.
to table,
I didn't vote.
and you didn't vote. I thought you did vote. And it doesn't matter either way to me.
Right.
Deb, honestly, I'm gonna stay in the middle. I said to you, I'll go with the majority. I mean, if,
That's how I feel.
so, Justin, my question for you is we table this till next, till the 14th. Give me an approximate time for ballpark idea when the tax bill will go out.
14th, 15.
Week later.
Will it go out by like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving?
It'll depend on our vendor, who we've already talked with, saying that we're going to need a rush job. But as you can imagine, we're not the only town setting our tax rate at this time. So you'd be looking at around Christmas, either before or after at that point. It would be
For
30
a
days
due date.
after. Yep.
With good cash flow wise?
Good enough.
So if we did it tonight, it's only gonna make it 1 week quicker, right? Logically,
Depending on when the vendor has availability, yes.
it's gonna, you know.
You're looking at the week before Christmas or the week of Christmas.
So I have, I have. a
Or the
motion
week
and a
after
second
Christmas.
to table. I have two. Any more for table?
Fine, yep.
Table it.
Yep,
Table it. All right, put it on the agenda first for the 14th, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And, you know, and let's, because I want to be able to entertain public comment and then go right into it.
thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Deb.
All right? I'm sorry that I took it to that point, but I want everybody to understand how the money moves and what it means. Okay, approval of minutes for October 17th, 2022.
Then I can make a motion to approve minutes.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Minutes are approved. Liaison reports. Anything new on the liaison front? I have to say, it has been, I know this may shock some people, but I've actually enjoyed attending the planning board meetings and seeing what's going on. It's been enjoyable. I forget how much I miss planning board.
Real quick for BudCom, they did complete the community services grant application period and had compiled the numbers. They are looking to present the same time frame as last year.
Okay.
At your pleasure.
Town manager report.
Mr. Chairman, I've got, in the interest of time, in the early hour tomorrow morning, an extensive written town manager report for the whole month of October. Encourage everybody to take a look at it. There's some materials that are attached there as well. including information about the Gilcrest Road transaction and the appraisal that did come back under the amount that the voters authorized the town to proceed with the transaction for. The developer intends to move forward on that basis, and we're having those discussions now. And Mr. Chairman, lastly, most or all of Londonderry is now out of drought status, and so I present that for any action the council may want to take tonight, if any.
Take us out of the,
So I file a motion, take us out of the,
You wanna- go ahead.
drought restrictions.
Second.
For all those who have not stopped running their sprinklers. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Drought status is ended. All right, our next meeting is on the 14th at 7 o'clock. Please, the polls open at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. See you then.
Six o'clock.
Excuse me.
Six o-
They
8
they close at 8 o'clock at night, open at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn.
I'm gonna get some sleep.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Chair votes affirmative. We are adjourned. Thank you, folks.